special family, welcome back to another fair use reaction video. Today we're doing part 2 of resources for special need families. So let's take a look at the resources that we have compiled.
Good morning, this is Tinge and I'm here to bridge another gap. I was reading something yesterday and I realized that a lot of new parents are not familiar with these programs that can support their young kids. One of the programs is called Babies Can't Wait, and it's through Child Find. And if you suspect any kind of disability with your child as early as 2 or 3 years old, you can start the process where they can get tested, especially for speech therapy. If they're not speaking yet, get tested through the school district that you're zoned for, and you can start speech therapy. They can I can go to the school, or somebody can come to the house and provide those services. So it's called Babies Can't Wait, or you can look at Child Find and see what it's called in your particular community. Have a great day. Bye.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on.
If you have an autistic child or a child with any disability, go to kidswaivers.org and see what you qualify for in your state. Click on your state and you'll have a drop-down list of things that you might qualify for your child. So things for us, I clicked on California. Nutritional consultation, we need that. Our child is so picky with food, specialized medical equipment or supplies, anything like that. Transition setup and expenses. We're looking to move. We need help with that to move so he can have better services. Vehicle modifications and adaptations, communication aids, so something like an AAC device, a talker for kids who are non-speaking or have little words. A voice is a voice, even if it's through an AAC device. So go to kidswaivers.org and see what your child might qualify for.
If you are a parent of a child who has autism, this video is just for you. Okay, parents, did you know that you can register your child with autism through 911? Let me tell you more. Okay, step 1, contact your local non-emergency number, okay? Step 2, ask them for the registry for your autistic child. Oh, and don't forget, once you register, keep your documentations and ask them if they have like a decal or a sticker or even a yard sign. These things you will be able to display in your environment in public so everyone will know that your child has autism, so that if an emergency happens, you will be notified, you will feel more comfortable, and the local enforcement, police, ambulance, they will also know about your child as well. So anytime there's an emergency, you can feel peace with yourself as a parent knowing that your child is taken care of. It's super easy, so get your child registered.
Autism families in the search for homes, rental relief, and grants for houses. You want to check out HUD, HUD.gov. This is a federal program nationwide in the United States. I've heard great things from people about HUD programs, and I've heard people say, hey, the HUD programs are not for me, primarily because HUD and the grants, specifically, they look at different parts of the state. So some people have to move to get a grant or get rental relief, and they're not willing to do that. For other people, it works great. Seems to benefit overall people who have suffered a recent economic disadvantage, which happens a lot to special needs families. There's a job loss or other things. So you want to check out HUD. It may not be perfect for you. It may be perfect for other people. They are always updating their programs. Let's jump in the comments. Let's get your reactions.
For our autistic child, disabled person placard for parking. So we took about a month to get because we live in the mountains. We don't have AAA. We don't have DMV. We got it by going online, dmvonline.com for our state, and printed up the form, take it to his pediatrician. His pediatrician had no questions about it. He was fully ready to do it. And all he wrote on there was autism, global developmental delay. And then from there, I mailed it in. Like I said, we live in the mountains, so I couldn't take it right in. If you live near a DMV, you could take it right in and get this the same day if your child has autism. So, and we ended up finally getting it and thinking, yeah, let's do this, because as we were getting out the car at a parking lot in this grocery store parking lot. We were outside of our car. Our son has the biggest meltdown, flops to the ground, is trying to run away. He elopes, he wanders off. We were hit by a car. My child was hit by a car. So I said, yes, we're doing this. So now we have this.
I had sort of an aha moment with some other special needs parents yesterday at a graduation party. And I want to talk to you guys about it because if you have autistic kids, and if they're pretty low functioning and they need help making decisions and they're going to need help in their lives, you might want to think about this and consider it. So I have guardianship over Van. I had to get guardianship over him when he turned 18 because he cannot make important decisions for himself, especially medical decisions. So one reason why you would get guardianship over your adult special needs child is in case they had to go to the hospital, so you can be allowed back in the room, so you can sign papers for them, so you can make medical decisions for them. Otherwise, if you don't have guardianship, they're probably not going to let you do that. But when you get guardianship, and you have to go through the court process, and you also have to fill out yearly paperwork to keep the guardianship up to date and filed with the state that you live in. In Maryland, and I'm guessing it's like this in other states as well, and this is kind of like a gut punch. Even my friend Kim said this. They're wards of the state, but the parents just have guardianship over them. And that's kind of really scary to think about because we all know what happens to special needs people when the state has to take over care for them. They go to facilities that are not so great. So it's kind of really hard to choose whether you want to be your kid's guardian or not. You need to do it for their safety, because if you don't do it, then the state can make decisions for them, and you don't want that to happen. Like, you want to make decisions for your child, but at the same time, it's almost like there's still their state property, because one thing, you can't just move anywhere you want to move. If I wanted to move out of state, I would have to go to court and get permission to do so, because Van is a ward of the state, I guess. I'm just his guardian. So that kind of just really put it in perspective, and it's kind of harsh to think about, isn't it? So what are your thoughts?
I don't really understand guardianship. Can you explain that?
So I'm not an attorney at all, but certainly I would recommend that you reach out to a probate attorney. However, I am a mediator for the family courts, and I can give you some general information about guardianship. So there's three types of guardianship in the court system. There is guardianship of your person, guardianship of your estate, or guardianship of both. It's for 16 months. You can start as early as the day the student turns 17, and it can be granted as early as the day they turn 18. The individual becomes a ward of the state, and then the state gives that adult is in charge of the guardianship of that person. So guardianship of your person would be, you can't leave your kiddo alone for 4, 5, 6, 8 hours. You need to care for them. You need to cook for them, those sorts of things. And that could be, your great Aunt Myrtle. Guardianship of your estate means that your individual, your child, or the adult that you want guardianship of doesn't really understand finances, nor could take care of themselves financially. And then most people usually file for guardianship of both for their estate and their person. But I'm not an attorney.
If your child has a disability and you're concerned about their ability to be a fully independent adult, then there are 3 things that you want to do your homework on before their 17th birthday. And that's guardianship, power of attorney, and supported decision making. Depending on your child's level of functioning, one of those 3 items may actually be suitable for your child. Guardianship is done through court proceedings and sometimes can take 6 to 12 months in some states. Power of attorney does not require a court process. However, your child must be competent enough to give you that authority. Otherwise, the power of attorney may actually be void. And lastly, supported decision making, the newest of the 3 and not recognized through a legally binding document in many states, but that doesn't mean that you can't use that process. So supported decision making is not used in Georgia, but that's the process that I felt was most appropriate for my son who is on this spectrum. So check them all out, learn as much as you can. And if your child is going to need support after the age of 18, be sure that you've done your homework and that you're aware of the options before he or she turns 18.
Let's explore special needs trusts. Think of a special needs trust as a customized financial plan, but with some special rules. Imagine you have a friend, Robin, who has unique financial needs due to a disability or special circumstances. Now, Robin might be receiving support from the government like Medicaid or disability benefits to cover her essential expenses. But what if Robin also receives an inheritance or a settlement? We don't want those extra funds to jeopardize her government assistance or be at risk from potential creditors. Well, that's where the special needs trust comes in. It's like creating a separate bank account specifically for Robin's extra funds. The money in this account can be used to improve her quality of life without impacting her government support. But here's the catch. There are rules, documents, that govern how this money can be spent. These rules ensure that the funds are used wisely and only for things that directly benefit Robin. It's like having a financial manager to help make responsible decisions. In simpler terms, a special needs trust is a smart financial tool designed to protect and manage extra money or assets for someone with unique needs. It's like having a financial guardian to make sure they can enjoy a better life without losing essential support or facing financial risks.
Hello. When you have a child with a disability and they turn 18 and they're currently receiving Social Security benefits, several things change when the child turns 18 that you as the parent should consider, because these are things that will impact the child, yourself, and the Social Security benefits that they're receiving. When they turn 18, according to Social Security Administration, they now have become an adult. What that means is you as the parent can no longer make certain decisions for them about their health and welfare. However, you can still stay involved either as a payee representative or as in a guardianship role, depending on your situations. If you're a payee representative, Social Security, they make the decision who the representative will be to guide your child's benefits. If there's a guardianship situation, then the court is necessarily involved. And if they can't execute a power of attorney, you may need an attorney to help you establish the guardianship. Some other things to consider is the changes with supplemental security income eligibility. SSI provides monthly payments of adults or to adults and children with a disability or blindness who have income and resources below a certain financial limits. When your child turns 18, Social Security will review their eligibility for SSI continuation, and then will help give you some guidance as to their rulings on that. Another consideration is dealing with education transition that you're dealing with for your child or your now young adult. If your child attends a public school, they have a few options to continue their education after graduating. There's a few things to consider. They could pursue further education in college or trade programs with individual education programs called IEPs. They may have the opportunity to continue their education in a transitional program through their high schools, even after they've completed their senior year. Most school systems will allow for continued education through the age of 22. There's another consideration, and that's employment. Local vocational rehabilitation services may provide assistance for employment options during the pre-graduation IEP time period. Another consideration is living arrangement supports. Once your child turns 18, they may choose or qualify for different living arrangements. Depends on the services they already receive. It depends on his or her situation with the family and the abilities of the child or now young adult. Here's an example of such. If your child receives therapy services at school, how will they receive them once they transition out of school? They could, through a Medicare waiver or private insurance, continue that program. Qualifications for respite services may also look different. Those services allow family caregivers time to step away from their duties. It's essential you understand all the benefits and options available to your child once they complete high school before they decide living with new arrangements or services. The last consideration that you should be looking at deals with financial protections. Whether it's a special needs trust or an ABLE account, both of those should be looked into for your child. A special needs trust needs paperwork that you probably already have in place. You need to address that paperwork before the child turns 18. Otherwise, inheritance may help impede or terminate your child's right to receive certain Social Security benefits. So make sure that paperwork is updated. And then lastly, what about an ABLE account, A-B-L-E? You can deposit funds into this account up to a certain dollar amount each year. However, there are limits on what the funding does cover. Talk to your bank, talk to maybe an attorney who handles probate or estate planning. Those are the types of things that we hope that you'll consider once your child who is receiving Social Security benefits based on a disability or blindness, you're going to need to address those issues as soon as practical.
If you have a child on SSI benefits and they're turning 18 soon, Social Security might make you refile for them as an adult due to the rule changes from child benefits to adult benefits. Good thing about this though is that once they are an adult and they apply for adult benefits, now the parent's household income or household financial information will no longer come to play. They're only going to solely basically look at the person who's applying their financial information.
Hey everyone, it's Attorney Avi over here answering your disability questions. This is an outstanding question and I want everyone to understand it because I think that it probably applies to a lot of you who are on SSI. The question is, they're reducing my benefits on SSI every month because I'm getting food and shelter from a family member, from a friend. Is there a workaround? And the answer is yes, there is a workaround. If you can get a letter from the family member or from the person, the friend who's providing you with the food and shelter saying that it's not for free and that you have to pay rent and that all of this in-kind support is really just a loan. Okay, so you need to get a letter. It needs to be dated. It needs to explain that this is just a loan and that this is not in-kind support. And you submit that letter to Social Security District Office. They will adjust your payments accordingly and increase your payments back to the regular SSI amount. You do not have to lose the money. Now, caveat. No fraud, my friends. This is on the honor system, okay? If you're really getting free food and shelter, then don't submit this letter. That's fraud, and I'm not here to teach you how to do that. This has to be a legitimate thing, so you need to have a conversation with your family and say, listen, I plan on paying you back. I'd like to pay you back. I'd like to get this letter from you showing that it's just a loan and that it's not in kind, and you have to be honest. Remember, my friends, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. As they say, the truth will set you free. Good luck.
When you do the application for your disabled adult child's SSI, when do they ask about what you're going to charge for room and board? They usually don't. I don't think I've ever heard of a case where they ask the parent how much they're going to charge in room and board. So how do we communicate it to them? It's up to us. As parents, we have to know the rule. We have to tell them. We have to come prepared. And that's why we talk about this, so that you can go into the application letting them know. Now, the other thing I'll say is you're going to tell them in the application, and you're going to be very surprised when they receive their first check and it's still reduced because they're saying, oh, there's no room and board being charged and they're living at home, and so that's considered income. After they receive their first reduced check, around $600, you have to call Social Security and say, hey, remember when I told you that we are going to charge room and board? You made an error. Then hopefully they will fix the mistake. And even if there's going to be back pay, they should go all the way back to when you first started the application and make sure that all that back pay includes the room and board amount so that you don't get a reduction. How much do you need to charge in room and board or rent to avoid an SSI reduction if your child lives at home and is receiving SSI as an adult 18 plus? Well, in case you didn't know, if your child lives at home and is receiving SSI, Social Security actually counts that shelter as income, and then they reduce the SSI benefit. That is, unless, of course, you charge room and board or rent. And those terms are interchangeable depending on what your local Social Security office wants to hear. In short, you have to charge at least $342.33, nice even round number. That's essentially 1/3 of $967, which is the max, plus $20. That's how they calculate it. But should you charge just $342 per month? Personally, I say no. You have to understand how Social Security views SSI. It's welfare. You don't earn it, you simply qualify for it by being disabled, having low income, and low assets. So if you charge $342, that leaves about $600 left over for your child. Can they actually spend that every month? For a lot of us, if your child's living at home, you're not separating their expenses out. They're just absorbed into the family. And if they can't spend $600 every single month, SSI might look at that and say, this is welfare. It's supposed to be used to keep them alive. They're not even using it. Should we even pay them that, or should we reduce it? In my opinion, I prefer to charge more room and board. That amount goes to the parents. The parents can now use that money for whatever they want, including actually paying for household expenses, or a lot of times parents will turn right back around and send that money to their child's ABLE account. And that then means less money that the child has to spend every month. We don't want imprudent spending. Bottom line, charge at least $342 a month to avoid a reduction, but consider charging more. And the way you figure that out is by totaling up all of your household expenses and dividing it by the number of adults in the home. You can also consider comparable rents if your child were to rent a room in the area. Hope that helps. I had 2 parents of their disabled adult child tell me how badly they wish they had known this rule in the past, because now it's too late and their son misses out on this benefit for the rest of his life. One of my client's sons was diagnosed with a disability a long time ago. He even received SSI when he turned 18 years old. But then he tried to work and see if he could support himself. And ultimately he was unsuccessful. But during that year that he tried to work, he earned above the substantial gainful activity limit, which means he lost SSI, but it wasn't a big deal because he was trying to see if he could work. Fast forward years later, now his dad is filing for Social Security. And that should unlock the SSDI, Disabled Adult Child, or DAC benefit for their son. And during that application process, Social Security goes back and they look at your earnings record. And they found, sure enough, years ago, their son earned above the substantial gainful activity limit while he was trying to see if he could work. And because of that, Social Security views that as, hey, he was disabled, but then he worked, which means he's not anymore. Well, in reality, he is. He's permanently disabled. But again, Social Security doesn't see it that way. They see it as he was diagnosed disabled, he earned enough money, which means he's not disabled, so he no longer qualifies for this DAC benefit. And guess what? That's permanent for the rest of his life. Because that disability diagnosis was interrupted by earning more than the limit, even one time, even before he earned the DAC benefit, he now forfeits the DAC benefit for the rest of his life. The DAC benefit is huge. It pays double the amount that SSI pays, and it's a lot less difficult to work with. If you have a loved one with a disability, number one, get them diagnosed, make sure that they do have a disability and that Social Security knows about it before the age of 22. And then if they want to work and see if they can support themselves, do not let them do it without first contacting Ticket to Work through Social Security, which allows them 9 trial work months where they can earn above the limit without it counting against them. Do everything you can to protect the DAC benefit. Here's to hoping this helps you, knowing something that this client couple wished they had known so they could have prepared and protected their son against losing a benefit for the rest of his life.
I hope these resources are able to help someone out there, and in that way you can also refer this video to someone else who might need these resources. Each one teach one. I show you the resources, you can show someone else in your community. That way we are all informed of things that can benefit us in these times that we need it the most. So I'll come back tomorrow with part 3 with some more. All right, see ya. Bye.